Today we're taking a trip to the African continent and discovering which countries have the most money in the bank. We'll be taking a look at the most thriving economies on the continent and giving you some insights into what makes them so successful. But before we get to the list, let's go over some fun facts about African economies that you may not have known. Did you know that Africa is home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world? Number one being Ethiopia. With over 1.3 billion people in the world with a median age of 19.7, Africa basically has an untapped workforce that is bound to skyrocket its productivity. And now, without further ado, let's get into the top 10 richest countries in Africa based on their GDP. At number 10, we have Tunisia with a GDP of over $45 billion. The economy of Tunisia is largely service-oriented and is made up of tourism, textile, manufacturing, mining, energy, agriculture, and other industries. Tunisia has a large agricultural sector that accounts for 17% of its GDP. Tunisia is also a member of the Arab League and the World Trade Organization and the African Union. At number 9, we have Angola with a GDP of over $67 billion. The economy of Angola is heavily dependent on the production and export of oil, as oil accounts for over 90% of the country's exports. Other major exports include diamonds, coffee, sisal, and fish. Angola also has a large informal sector which accounts for roughly 30% of the country's economic activity. The informal sector is primarily composed of subsistence farming and small-scale businesses. Agriculture, which is mainly subsistence-based, is the main source of livelihood for the majority of Angolans. Angola has significant potential for agricultural production, but this potential is not being fully utilized due to the lack of infrastructure and investment. And despite conflicts in the past, Angola's potential for agricultural production is still a force to be reckoned. At number 8, we have Ghana with a GDP of over $77 billion. The economy of Ghana is mainly driven by its export of natural resources such as gold and cocoa. Ghana is also becoming an increasingly attractive investment destination for foreign investors with a large population and a steadily growing economy. The country has seen a positive economic growth rate over the past few years, with its GDP increasing from $33.2 billion in 2014 to $41.5 billion in 2018 to the current number now. The government is working to promote the economic development of the country, encouraging investments in agriculture and infrastructure projects. At number 7, we have Ethiopia with a GDP of over $111 billion. The economy of Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing economies in the world and is classified by the World Bank as a lower middle income country and is the second largest economy in the Eastern African region. The economy is based largely on agriculture, which accounts for about 40% of the gross domestic product, 80% of exports, and 80% of the labor force. The government has implemented a number of economic reforms aimed to promoting economic growth and reducing poverty. Although Ethiopia has gone through civil wars and battles with other nations, the economy is still faring pretty well. Also, Ethiopia was the only African country to not be colonized, so if they are doing this well without any major minerals or energy exports, imagine where the rest of Africa would be. At number 6, we have Kenya with a GDP of over $112 billion. Kenya is a hub for East African commerce and is known for its thriving tourism industry. Its economy is largely based on agriculture, which accounts for about 25% of its GDP and is the largest source of employment for the country. Other major industries in the country include tourism, manufacturing, financial services, and telecommunications. Kenya is also an important regional trading partner and is a member of the East African Community. Kenya has also secured foreign investments due to its stability and overall development over the years. At number 5, we have Morocco with a GDP of over $142 billion. Morocco has a strong manufacturing sector, particularly in textiles and automotive, and is also a popular tourist destination. Morocco is also known for its strong agricultural sector and tourism. The country's industrial sector, which includes the production of textiles, apparel, leather goods, and processed foods. Morocco has established free trade agreements with the United States, the European Union, and several other countries in the region. In recent years, the government has taken steps to diversify the economy and reduce its dependence on traditional sectors such as agriculture and tourism. In addition, the country has seen an increase in foreign investments, particularly in its oil and gas industries. At number 4, we have Algeria with a GDP of over $163 billion. Algeria is a major oil and gas producer and has a strong manufacturing sector. Its economy is heavily dependent on oil and gas exports, which account for almost 60% of total exports and more than 25% of its GDP. Algeria's GDP per capita is estimated at $4,731. The country's main industries are oil, natural gas, agriculture, water desalination, and manufacturing. At number 3, we have Egypt with a GDP of over $404 billion. Egypt has a diversified economy with sectors such as agriculture, industry, and service contributing to its GDP. The economy of Egypt is the largest in North Africa and is projected to grow in 2023. Tourism is an important sector accounting for around 11% of the country's GDP, while oil and natural gas exports account for around 5%. Remittances, foreign investments, and Suez Canal revenues also contribute to the economy. At number 2, we have South Africa with a GDP of over $419 billion. South Africa has mixed economy with a large amount of economic activity coming from the service sector. The country is richly endowed with natural resources and has a relatively high GDP per capita compared to other African countries. South Africa has a large manufacturing sector which has diversified in recent years, and it's a leading producer of minerals such as gold, platinum, and diamonds. And finally, at number 1, we have Nigeria with a GDP of over $440 billion. Nigeria is the largest oil producer and exporter in Africa. Agriculture is also an important sector of the economy with over 17 million hectares of arable land. Nigeria also has the largest population in Africa. It has a mixed economy with a large private sector, public sector, and informal sector. The country has some of the world's fastest growing industries, including banking, telecommunications, food processing, and cement production. Nigeria has also had a booming movie and music scene that has helped export African culture and add to its piggy bank. And that's it for today, folks. We hope you enjoyed this journey through the wealthiest countries in Africa.